Yo, 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 yo. Welcome in. I am super hyped to be with you for episode 2 of Saliggy and the Doc. I am the Doc, Dr. Christian Friend. Saliggy, what's good, son?
What up, though? What up, though? Saliggy in the house. Easy like Sunday morning.
Right. So what you rocking? I see you sport this white shirt. What'd you say about what does that even mean, Saliggy? What does never go Eric Benet even mean?
So here we go. So remember Jigga's last album, 444?
Yes, sir.
The first track, Kill Jay-Z, talks about how the evolution of his relationship with Beyonce from courting to marriage and whatever else is going on in between.
Right.
Mm-hmm. He was like, he didn't want to give the hottest chick in the game wearing his chain and fail like this Negro right here, AKA Mr. Moccasins, singing and teary-eyed with cowrie shells and shit. Never go Eric Benet. I love that. I've always loved that reference.
That's beautiful. So don't mess up a good thing. Public service announcement to the brothers in healthy, functional, committed relationships with people that love you.
Yeah, don't
mess that up.
Yeah, don't mess it up. Don't fuck it up.
That's good. I'm rocking my sci-fi stuff as usual. Shout out to the Mandalorian, Grogu, also known as Baby Yoda.
This is the way.
Yes, sir. It is. So we got to do a Mandalorian episode at some point. So the we're in March of 2021, a whole year of COVID, but we're not going to dwell on that because I think we're both a little bit joyful because we've got March Madness going on. I know I am. I know it's a nice distraction to be able to turn on the TV and there's always basketball. So I know the answer for me, but I'm curious for you, how your bracket's looking, Saliggy.
Well, let me tell you, man, the first
you sound like you're mourning.
I'm saying, man, like Ohio State, I watched that entire game, Ohio State versus Oral Roberts, right?
Right.
And the saddest shit was Oral Roberts had two dudes running two-man game the entire game. So the thought is you stop one of them and then you run your offense, right? These dudes, what's the young dude's name? Max Asmus, which I thought was a funny pronunciation since his name is spelled A-B-M-A-S, but Max Asmus, he leads the country in scoring. He had 29, and then his running mate, Kevin O'Banner, had 30. The entire team scored 75, so literally they scored about 80% of their points. So you had to stop one of those two, right? And they couldn't do it. And then on top of that, the dude, Dwayne Washington, around here, when a dude starts jacking up shit, just profusely and wrongly, we call him a heist box. Dwayne Washington was a heist box. I mean, he even shot what they called an overtime wedgie during the game, which I thought was hilarious.
Yeah, that is hilarious.
Backward, I thought that was hilarious. But he missed free throws. I mean, he missed open shots.
Two clutch threes down the stretch, wide open looks.
Yeah, it was a bad look. It was a
very bad look for him. But it's a bad look for Ohio State. Like, I saw the game too. I was interested in that one, obviously. I got one bracket where they're in the Final Four for sure. And it was like
a final.
Right. And it's like I just expected more from them. The defense is one thing. You give up a lot of points. Sometimes great scorers are great scorers, and you can only hope to contain them. But they could not score the ball. Like, that's what drove me crazy. It's like they just could not find an option. They couldn't run pick and roll. They couldn't run motion. They just could not execute on offense. And that was crazy to me.
No, but E.J. Liddell, hilariously, he played well with a bad back, but then he's the one.
He played solid.
And he received death threats. I was like, if you're going to send death threats to anybody, send it to the right person.
Another public service announcement from Saliggy and the Doc. If you're going to send death threats, send them to the right person.
If you're going to cyberbully the right person. Don't go to the wrong one. It's crazy.
If you're going to be a troll the proper people.
it's
what
so.
else?
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I just asking what else popped up. What else
Oh,
popped out at you for the tournament? Yeah.
so then we got number 2 Ohio State gone. We
Right.
got 2 number 4s gone. So we got Purdue. They're out.
Yeah.
Hell, I can't even. Oh, they lost to North Texas. I didn't even watch that game.
I saw it. I saw
struggled.
it down the stretch, and the same deal. Like they could not. Now North Texas was not scoring, at any kind of massive rate. They did not have 2 guys with 29 and 30 respectively. They just executed better down the stretch, and Purdue struggled to find points. That's what I saw.
Yeah. So then also Virginia. So yesterday, UVA, and the thing about UVA, they've been through a lot, with being ousted from the ACC tournament, which we'll get to a little bit later. They got ousted from the ACC tournament, and they've been going through a lot of stuff with the travel, and then when they arrived in Indianapolis. So they don't have a lot of this whole thing. So you don't have that continuity. You run the same pack line defense, but it's different personnel. You don't have a Diakite. You don't have Ty Jerome and Kyle Guy and my man that got drafted by the Hawks. Can't remember his name. It escapes me right now. But you don't have the same personnel. So that losing to Ohio didn't really shock me. But I went to bed last night. The last game that was played last night was Texas versus Abilene Christian, right? And I saw it was back and forth, but I figured that Shaka Smart's guys would get it together.
Right.
I wake up this morning and I see they lost on a free throw. Like, what the hell? Like,
right.
Texas is gone.
Texas is gone, man. And I had them at least in the Elite Eight in my, first bracket and a little deeper in some others. Like, I really thought that they had the talent to carry it forward. It's a crazy thing. It's a crazy time of year generally. And then you add in COVID and you think about UVA and the impact of COVID and them arriving late to the bubble in Indianapolis had on them. And it just, it makes it so unpredictable. There were some places where I did pretty good. Like I picked the Rutgers upset at Clemson. I picked the Maryland upset at UConn.
I did not.
There were a couple other places where I kind of figured it out, I think. I thought Georgia Tech might beat Loyola of Chicago. I slept on the Chicago guys here at Loyola. It's probably because I done drove past the campus and I was like, it's no way. It's no way they beat Georgia Tech. But, I was clearly wrong. Respect to Loyola University. I don't know who picked Purdue or Ohio State because it wasn't until the Virginia loss that ESPN announced that there were no more perfect brackets in ESPN. So that means somebody picked the North Texas win and they picked the Ohio State loss. So.
Yeah, I think they must have been Oral Roberts and Abilene Christian and North Texas alums because nobody in their right mind had them advancing. Yeah, you brought up the point about Loyola. Chicago. So I had on a lot of my sheets, I had like 10 sheets. I had either one of them going because it was 8-9 games. I had Tech, Loyola, right? But then when I heard that Moses Wright, the ACC Player of the Year, was under protocol for COVID and wasn't going to play,
I did not hear that.
I switched everything to Loyola.
I did not hear that. I had no idea until I turned on the game, and I was like, where is he?
You gotta have your phone pop, man.
Yeah, I'm not on it. Like I do a point in time assessment, and then I make picks, and then I just go watch games. You got to be in real time with this, particularly for a COVID year.
Should be moving.
So at this point, like with who's left in, who do you think the national championship is? If you got to put it on record, like who's the national champion and maybe who's in the finals or the Final Four?
Well, I mean, after all the muck that happened Friday and Saturday, I think the favorites to get to the Final Four will be Gonzaga. I think Michigan has a much easier road now that Texas is gone. And on the other side, I didn't want to pick Baylor, but I'm guessing Baylor's got to go now.
Right.
because I don't think Purdue was going to. I mean, I thought Purdue was going to offer some semblance of resistance.
Ohio
But
State gone, Purdue gone. That leaves Arkansas in their bracket.
So Arkansas is the last squad to really provide a real challenge. But with this thing, you never know. But Baylor would be the favorite over there in that bracket, and that portion of the bracket. And then lastly, I guess it all depends on what happens between the Battle of Chicago with Loyola and Illinois playing later on today. So
that's true.
Yeah, we'll see if Illinois gets past this. I don't really know or see anybody. Who's the two in this?
Houston. That's what I was about to say. I was just about to say, I don't know nothing about Houston. I did not watch. I didn't see them play at all this year. I didn't see their conference tournament, but they're a number 2 seed in that bracket. It looks like they handled Cleveland State pretty well, So Houston Rutgers will give us some sense of, if Houston's a real contender.
So Kelvin Sampson is coaching them. So he has gritty ballers, man. So I can see them providing a challenge to Illinois. But if Illinois can get to this next weekend and get to Houston and get past them, I think they can make it to the Final Four. So then the Final Four will be all chalk ones, right? So I'm thinking that Gonzaga probably win the whole thing. I think they're the best team in this tournament just based on size, ball handling.
They got everything.
And if they don't do it this year, I don't know when they'll ever be able to do it again because Jalen Suggs ain't coming back.
And I don't know what happens with Mark Few because it's at this point, this is his year, right? This is Gonzaga's year. So it's, we'll see. I'm actually rooting for them. I want them to win one. I in some ways, they dominate their conference, but in a lot of ways, because they're in a smaller conference, and because they're Pacific Northwest, they're an underdog, and I like rooting for the underdog. So, go Zags.
Go Zags.
I guess. Well, Georgetown's out, so you got to pick someone to root for.
So look,
you
man,
thought I wasn't going to say nothing. I wasn't going to say that.
The reason why we're doing this today is because yesterday Georgetown was the early game at noon, right? So I was like, hey, man, let's push this back a day. Let me check my boys
for schedule
that had the great run last week in the Big East tournament and just looked as if they were inching to getting back to 1985. Big John Thompson, Pat Ewing, Bill Martin defense, right? So I was like, okay, they scored 73 and they held Creighton to 48. Creighton that almost lost yesterday, by the way, but
Right. I thought,
yeah. So then they get Colorado, and they gave up 96 points, man.
Colorado went in on them, right? Yeah.
They went in.
It wasn't like a contest either, right? It wasn't like it was close for a little while, and then they pulled away. They outplayed them from start to finish. It was just
they ran pick and roll from 3.
Right.
Samaki Walker's son. Fucking Samaki Walker's son?
Hey, the second generation's better than the first sometimes. So
he ain't even that good though. That's the thing. They were saying
that's true.
He only hit a couple of threes here and there during their tournament during the season. He had 4 open threes.
That's why it's March Madness, man. Yeah, you never know what's gonna happen.
Georgetown was supposed to be there anyway, but they went to tournament. They got the automatic qualifier.
Right,
After recruiting profile. Okay.
Right, exactly. So they've exceeded expectations just by being there. Congratulations to the Hoyas and Coach Patrick Ewing for a history-making season. And the one piece of disappointing thing, or where I felt robbed a little bit when I looked at my brackets, was the fact that who was it? It was Oregon got advanced because I literally picked VCU to upset them. I heard that VCU team is playing well, and they have been since, Shaka Smart was the coach and built a program there. And so I was really excited about seeing that game and hopefully a VCU upset. And then, this is March Madness 2021. We get the news that, apparently either more than one player tested positive for VCU, or it's one player plus the contract tracing, which would make them ineligible. And so Oregon gets an automatic advance.
Yeah.
And so that was disappointing, but it also made me think about like how COVID in general. And I wanted to get your thoughts on this, Salim. I have mine, I'll share in a moment, but just, are you getting this vaccine is the question I have for you. Are you going to get vaccinated? And if so, when do you think you're going to get vaccinated?
The short answer is absolutely. I'm not an anti-vaxxer. I'm not. I'm not going to sit here and talk crazy and say, "Oh, there's conspiracies here and there based on African Americans' history with medicine and science in this country." Essentially, what I've been learning is COVID is more so an advanced version of SARS, right? So it's like a SARS 2, but just it has that Hulk element to it, where once you get it, it can just damage vital organs and just muck up your respiratory system permanently, right? So seeing that we are in this global pandemic, it is definitely something that I'm going to do. Now, the question is the matter of when. I'm not a first adapter or anything, right? And I know a lot of people want this so they can get back to some semblance of normalcy. So people can travel, go to the beach, have barbecues, go to concerts, all
Summer
that.
Coming, right?
That really doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things, but people just want to have that normalcy, right? But am I going to jump in on the vaccine right away? No, because first, you have the three primary ones that you hear about are Johnson & Johnson, Moderna, Pfizer. I've gotten through COVID fairly safely, right? Obviously, this thing will attack you unknowingly. It'll jump on you unexpectedly if you don't. If you do simple things like go to the grocery store, go to a drive-through, somebody touches something, you don't wash it. Well, it can happen. Well, I'm in the house and I'm good. I don't have a wife. I don't have any kids, so I get to talk to my crazy ass self, and I don't have any noise or anything bothering me in the house. So the noise is me. I like my noise. Some people don't like that. I love it. I embrace it. I wash my hands. I wash my ass. I'm good.
It's always important.
That's always important, but it's amazing what you find out that certain people don't do in the midst of COVID. It's wild. It's wild shit. But when I do go out, it's for short spurts of time.
Right.
I'll go to Whole Foods.
And get back.
Whole Foods, 15 minutes, get through. Don't touch me. Right. What up, bro? Holler at you. Boom.
Right. Keep
in and out.
6 feet. Right.
Yeah, in and out. I don't 6 feet. Yeah, people want to get up on you like, yo, bro, move.
Right. Yeah.
Yo, this ain't back 2019, man. Get the fuck away from me. So
right.
I try to be very respectful of people's space and people's time, and I want them to be respectful of mine. So I try to eliminate the opportunity to get grand exposure. And I think I've been in like 5 people's houses for throughout the year, and I can count them all on like 1 or 2 hands. I'm good,
Right.
So I'm good until I'm not. So I'm definitely pro-vaccine. I will get it, but I'm not jumping through any hoops to get the shit right now. Let things get figured out. Let things kind of get more stable with that information.
Yeah, I think because of a few things, like I am an early adapter. Well, I guess it's like I'm part of the regular schedule. So my mom is 83, right? And she's staying with my brother in DC. And but she's normally in Philadelphia, like her crib is in Philadelphia. And at her place, which is an assisted living place, they were like, hey, if you're here, you can get vaccinated. And they were like, prioritize the elderly. So my mom got the vaccine before it was even accessible to me, and she's been fine. And I know I've got a couple of family members who work in healthcare who've gotten the vaccine, and they've been fine. So that made me feel confident that when here in Chicago, I got high blood pressure and I'm obese. And so that qualifies me as pre-existing conditions. And so when they opened up the pre-existing conditions, Keisha, my wife, and I were like, let's go. So we've had the first shot. But we took the Pfizer vaccine. I had a little bit of achiness shit in the shoulder where they gave me the shot. I felt like a little, But we got our second one next month, April 8th, and we're looking forward to it, just to be protected. And I appreciate your willingness to talk about it from the perspective of like, this is like not being a conspiracy theory and things like that. I'm an advocate for it. Obviously, I done took the shot. I'm going to take another one, and I understand like the mistrust of African Americans towards anything the country does. Right, like no matter, and it doesn't. Not just people like, well, I can understand how I can mistrust the healthcare system. We should mistrust the healthcare system, the financial system, the political system. Like, there's nothing the United States has done that hasn't harmed us in some way. So I can understand that. And I understand that people would argue like, oh, the United States is trying to do better. Yes, it's still a white supremacist country at its roots and influences us and attacks us in that way. But at the same time, now I'm looking at like uptake rates, like people like, oh, Tuskegee experiments. That was experiments done just on Black people. But when you look, like I'm looking at this chart from Kaiser Family Foundation, which is using CDC data. And I'll actually see if I can share this real quick. That probably makes sense to do, because these are data about like uptake rates for in the United States, where it's like white people in the percent vaccinated, Black people in the percent vaccinated, Hispanic and Asian people in the percent vaccinated. And you can see that about 19% of white people have been vaccinated, only about 11% of Black people, 9% of Hispanic people, and then 16% of Asian people. Now, they don't have ethnicity data on everyone who's taking the shot, so the numbers might be a little bit skewed. But the point being, like, white people are taking up this vaccine at higher rates, right? And so for me, it's like, this is not a thing where like people of color have been targeted, right? And if anything, it's a public health issue to ensure that, you know, our people, people of color, Black, Indigenous people of colors, make sure that they're protected and stay healthy, because I don't want us to die, man. I want us to stay healthy.
No, everything you said is legit. And for those people that try to make the creation of the vaccine a racial issue, I mean, it's just wrong. It's miseducation across the board with that. But I think where the race element comes into play, based on those stats you just showed, is more so in the distribution of the vaccine. You said 11% for African Americans and 9% for Latinos, or Hispanics. So right there, again, they're at the back of the line when it comes to the ability and the availability of the vaccine being distributed if you want it, right? So I've heard stories that go across the lines of racial and social stratification, and I guess socioeconomical stratification. The Black friends that we have that have money, they've been able to get it. You know, they're like, they're putting their cards up and like, hey, I did it. Hey, I did it. But they're like, a lot of people from where I'm from, and I'm pretty sure from where you're from up in TNet, that probably don't have the same access. They aren't getting the vaccines as easily. Now, some do get it based on, you know, things like the obesity and high blood pressure. I'm even eligible because I have high blood pressure and my BMI is high. So I'm eligible to get it if I want it. But yeah, sometimes I can go to GW Hospital or the Rich People's Hospital here called Sibley. You know, I can get it.
I know it well. Mom be
I'm doing okay.
Sibley.
I'm doing all right. But you know, Sibley, your brother's down the street from there. So,
right, yeah.
Yeah, but it's not everybody will have that access that's Black and brown in this area. So it's kind of a struggle to get that. It's just kind of funny how distribution of this vaccine and availability of it is still kind of based on, hey, who has the money, who looks like this. It's almost like redlining in politics. You know,
that's good.
You know, you got this area that can have this stuff, but these guys got to vote by 7 p.m. or die. You know, that type of thing.
Right. You make such a good point around access, and that's something that we overlook a lot of times when we start talking about equity and inclusion, is this access piece of it. And like, you're right. Like, part of it is just knowing how to navigate the system. So it's like, yeah, Keisha and I got shots, but in order to do that, I had to be in a Facebook group called Vaccine Hunters. I had to like navigate some web-based spreadsheets to figure out how the system worked. I had to be logged in and create an account at Walgreens, and then like be checking regularly and have the flexibility of my workday to have a web browser open, checking for vaccine appointments. So that, that personal experience just proves your point. You're absolutely right. The other piece of it is when I did get a vaccine appointment, it was like 71st in Cottage Grove or like Southside, right? And so predominantly African American, middle, low income community. And so I'm in there and I get the shot and I'm like, great, like I'm happy. And I'm walking out the store and a woman stops me and was like, hey, did you just get a vaccine? A Black woman. I was like, yeah. And she was like, I don't know if I should get it. And I said, well, look, I'm 45. I got high blood pressure. I'm obese. I felt like it was important for me to get it. And she said, look, I'm 63. I qualify for it, but I don't know. I get like heart palpitations. I said, that's even more reason. Like, just check with your doctor. If your doctor says you should get it, you should get it. And she said, and then like, what do I do? Do I just go up here and make an appointment? And I was like, no, that's the thing. You got to like call the 800 number to get an appointment, or you got to log into the website. And she was like, thank you, thank you, thank you. But that information isn't readily available, right? So it's just to prove your point around like how there needs to be more access. Final thing I'll say about this and offer you the last word is just this idea of the conspiracy theories. And it's amazing to me how like for African American people, our distrust has led to conspiracy to a point that we're now aligned with QAnon on this, right? So the same people who stormed the Capitol were the ones saying like, they're putting microchips in your arm, they're using the vaccine to do this. Like we have people in the African American community now who are like aligned in that thinking with the predominantly white group that stormed the Capitol. And I think that's something that, just hit me the other day is like, so what is that, right? Like, what is the similarity between, for example, I have some friends who are like Black Israelites who will be like, don't take that shot, or right, other folks. So it's just this idea of like, we got some people who are so radical in either direction or misinformed in one direction or another, that, the conspiracies are lining up. It just I was amazed at the thought.
Yeah, man, like this country is wild. Like the Venn diagrams of thought from
right.
two disparate groups,
right,
aligned in some stupidity. But that goes to show, like, I mean, we've always talked about this, just me and you, and before we thought about doing this podcast, it's like education is lacking.
Right.
We don't teach kids critical thinking anymore, or how to be resourceful.
Yeah.
That simple task of thinking a problem through, word problems, or taking a scenario. If you go left, this will happen. If you go right, this will happen. We don't teach kids that, and then these kids become adults. Then they have kids, and it's just almost it's stupefying to see that the meek have now inherited the earth. I don't know about the earth, but America definitely. We made stupid people famous, and we've elected stupid people at all facets of government, state, local, federal, and they are the ones helping to push forward this narrative. When we were growing up, there were 3 channels: ABC, NBC, CBS, and
right.
They were all responsible journalists because they did the work, they did the research. When we grew up on Walter Cronkite, Dan Rather, Peter Jennings, Tom Brokaw, they did the research, they did the work. We read newspapers. We didn't have Google, so we had to, if we wanted to get more information, we're walking to the library, we're getting a microfiche, and we're trying to figure this stuff out. Now that information is so accessible, Wikipedia as an example, anybody can put anything in there and it becomes Bible. So when you get that individual that has that charisma and that verve, and people follow that person, they can follow you down a path of hell, and it's all good.
Yeah,
And that's what we're seeing, and that's what we've been seeing, especially the last 4 years. It's increased. We were coming down that line with reality TV and why certain people are becoming famous because they're socialites. But now, when you got somebody in office that's helping to push forward this narrative, and they have a major media outlet like a Fox that can help be the megaphone for that agenda. Now we have to listen to both sides of this, even if we're like, yo, come on, doesn't make any sense. Common sense is now something that is uncommon. So
yeah, man, that's really good. It's common sense. It's, to your point, the ability to think critically and reason is lacking. And I'm just reiterating what you've already said to summarize. And then people getting caught up in this cult of personality, because if you don't have the ability to reason, if you're not a critical thinker, then you're just looking for a whole ideology to adopt, right? You just like, and then if you have someone who's charismatic, you'll follow that cult of personality, adopt that whole ideology and system of thinking, as opposed to saying, hey, this part is true, that part is true, but over here, this part is true and that part is true, and be able to like reason for yourself. Even in terms of like religion, which we definitely got to get into in another show. It's like people feel like, relationship with the creator or with a higher power has to be like just what this one particular thing. It's really sad. And but I will say that I'm encouraged by people like yourself, Salim, who like getting the word out, who are smart brothers, and also like by people like Jay-Z, right? Like I see him making business moves. He's done what he needs to do to like transcend all of the simple parts of our culture and do something that is unique and special. So when I see people like that, I really get encouraged.
Yeah, absolutely.
Jay-Z, is like, in my mind, and I know I'm biased, Jay-Z is like the greatest rapper of all time because, I'm biased. I'll just say that. Okay. But it did raise the question for me. And I know we've talked about this a little bit, but I think about the Chris Rock movie every time I say it. But like, who's your top five, Salim? Like, who's the top five MCs in your mind? Okay. I think we talked about it, and every time I have this conversation, I'm like, the doc has to have a system for things. So it's my greatest strength and greatest weakness. It's got to be categorized in some way. So we talked about, and correct me if I'm wrong, remind me, I think we talked about flow, lyrics, and then is it longevity or cultural impact? Because the two things are different.
Yeah, I think you can include both, but there are people that were short bursts of life, but that's still, like, when you listen to it 20 some odd years later, you're like, yo, that motherfucker was ahead of his time or ahead of her time. So they still have a long lasting hold on hip hop. You can't tell the story of rap hip hop without these people, even if they were one album, two album, or just a quick, blur in time.
Cool. So, who goes first? Who's gonna do the big reveal of top five? You want to go first? Should I go first?
No, I'll go first, man. I think you're kind of scared. I think you're scared. You're probably gonna have your say, but I don't think we're gonna be too far off. We don't think we're gonna be too far off. I wish we had a top 10. It would be easier, but five makes it a little bit tougher. But I guess at 5 for me. 5 for me, and just because he is the father of the style that we came up in, and it's still considered like the style of rap that needs to kind of push forward, is Rakim. Rakim is 5.
Rakim Allah.
Rakim Allah, although that's blasphemous as hell, but yeah, Rakim.
I feel you. Charlemagne says Charlemagne the God, so like, yeah, completely blasphemous.
He's not Rakim. Rakim, like, for real, Paid in Full, that came out in '87, right? And Eric B. for President came out in '86. So even here in DC, where we're go-go country, Rakim was our first like rap star that made sense. I mean, because before him, we had Curtis Blow, you had Run DMC, they were all fun rappers, and it was all cool and happy. But Rakim just had like a grown version of rap that was like, yo, this shit is dope. The beats are crazy. The lyrics were ahead of its time, and it still holds true.
And his flow was different. He had a different flow.
Was different. And
rhyme scheme, everything.
Everybody had to like kind of change their game up because of him. So, and he was probably 18, 19 years old when he started rocking like that. Right. Okay, so Rakim is 5 for me. 4 for me.
Oh, you're going in order. Okay.
Yeah, 4 for me because of what he meant to the switch from East Coast to West Coast. And it was like, I never knew a West Coast dude could rap like that and still have like the ability to storytell about a part of the country I had no idea about. Ice Cube. Ice Cube was, I think Ice Cube. So I think what people forget Ice Cube because of what Ice Cube has become now. Like, sure. And I think this last year was a rough one for him because of the what was it, the black people's promise,
the platinum plan.
The platinum plan. The plan was cool and all of the decent idea, but the promotion of it as to who needed to listen to it versus who didn't need to listen to it, I think was kind of short-sighted on his part. But we'll leave that outside the realm there. What he has grown to through Cube Vision, the Big Three, and all this other stuff, people forget the seedlings of it. So people forget. I mean, people that are probably 30-something, they don't know about America's Most, Death Certificate, The Predator, which is my personal favorite Cube album.
Good albums. Yeah, I can't argue with the fact those are great albums. Yeah.
And then if you go to NWA,
yeah, straight out of Compton.
Yeah, straight out of Compton. When you talk about the lyrics and that shit, yo,
he was the best lyricist on that album for sure.
Easy.
In that group for sure.
18, 19 years old.
Yeah,
it was amazing with the Jerry curl.
Right, and it was transformative, right? It transformed the culture.
Yes.
Like, when NWA dropped, everyone was like, "What is this?" Like, no one had ever seen or done anything like that before. So it's a fair argument.
And
so
then,
you got.
I got Rakim and I got Cube. But what Cube did too was he was smart. He came to the East Coast with Hank Shockley and those dudes and put that bump in his bass and shit. And it was like, yo, this motherfucker's hard, like
Ice Cube and the Lynch Mob, and we jacking for beats.
Yeah,
right? That's
like,
what it is.
Yeah. Shit.
Yeah.
I'm not no gangbanger, but I fuck with this dude.
Right. West Side.
Yeah. And he was poignant with his lyrics.
Right.
Yeah. And they were on time, especially the Predator album during the riots post Rodney King, the verdict. So he was on time with that. So that's 4. 3, and I think watching the documentary on Netflix earlier this month, I mean, it's big. Like, Biggie was cool, man. Biggie was amazing for what, 3 summers? When I think of 95, I think of One More Chance remix. That was like, and it was like some cool, like, I don't drink, I like to party and shit, but it was like the coolest shit. This big fat mofo talking about black and ugly as ever, Coogee down to the socks, rings and watch filled with rocks. I mean, Biggie was
sick with it.
Yeah, he was sick with it. He was a 5-tool MC, and I think that we suffered in with his death because I think we missed what could have been as far as the height of his hip hop greatness. I think Jay-Z and Puffy were probably the benefactors of his demise, his early demise, in that Diddy was able to make so much money and become a mogul off of Bad Boy, which was really leaning on one guy, and that was Biggie. And then Jay-Z was just the perfect individual to move in to that void. So I think that Big is definitely on for number 3 on my list. Number 2 on mine and number 1 on yours, sometimes it's reluctant, is Jigga. And the thing about Jigga, which is interesting, is Jigga's had so many different styles from the time we saw him at Penn Relays, when he opened up for the Fugees. It was like, yo, who is this nigga with the leather coat? You know? Who is this cat with the staccato flow? And like, okay,
right,
he cool. He cool. Dead Presidents was dope. He cool, but how long is he gonna last?
Right.
As soon as I heard Can't Knock the Hustle, I said, yo.
Oh, ba-boom, ba-boom, ba-boom,
like,
ba-boom. I can even hear the beat in my head.
That Relays that open up the that nigga's nice. And then you start learning about Hawaiian Soul Feed from 88, because I'm not from New York, so I didn't know about jazz, the originator, and all that stuff.
I didn't either. So, let me just say real quick that I slept on him, right? Like that first album, like I missed it. Well, shout out to Obadiah Davis, Edric Campbell, who tried to put me on, and I was like, nah. I was too heavily engrossed in A Tribe Called Quest and De La Soul in native tongues. And he came out, and the lifestyle that he was describing on Dead Presidents was so foreign to me, a kid from the suburbs, that I couldn't really appreciate the music. And then it took me, and Jay said it. He's like, I gave you Prophecy on my first joint, and you're all lamed out. Didn't really appreciate it till the second one came out. And that's exactly what happened to me. Yeah.
And
so
Jay-Z has
Jigga
had
number 2.
He's had some dud albums, but like for me, Hard Knock Life sucks. I really hate that album. But he's got bangers on that shit.
Right. I don't know how you
hate Hard Knock Life, the album. I like Hard Knock Life, the single.
Hard Knock Life might be one of my favorite albums, period. Like I like almost everything on there. Yeah.
That was 98, I was in a different place. I was on my coming out shit.
That's exactly what I'm saying. You got to be like feeling the culture, right? Yeah.
Yeah, but the point is, he has been able to flow through each of these years, and he's right. Every summer from 96 to about 2009, he was relevant as fuck, and now
still is.
And he's still relevant. He's a 50-year-old dude that's got $1 billion in his pocket, and he's got Beyonce.
It could drop an album right now, and it would
I
go
would hope not. I would hope
not.
Yeah, but
no, you're not. We're not calling for a Jigga album right now. We're just saying we could do it. Right.
Yeah. And so my number one, I had to think about this because
I'm a little scared. Go ahead.
I didn't, because of again, he is similar to Jay-Z in the fact that he's done this throughout time. But when we were introduced to him at Live in the Barbecue in '91 as a 17-year-old,
wow,
Nasir's a bad motherfucker.
I can't believe it. Like I would never have thought you would put him.
Trust me, you made me think this through, and I was reluctant to admit that shit. But Nas, though, like you got, from Live at the Barbecue to Illmatic, which is to me still one of the greatest 37 minutes of hip hop that you'll ever need to listen to.
Greatest hip hop album of all time. I'm not afraid to say it.
Yeah. And everything after that, it all depends on how you feel about shit. Because, when he was on the Wu albums, Verbal Intercourse, like Nas got so much hot shit. And what I love about Nas is like Stevie Wonder of rap. he took what Slick Rick did and took it to another level as far as painting out stories. You could look at songs like Rewind and Second Childhood, and you'd be like, yo, I Gave You Power. You're like, yo, this nigga was a gun. It's like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And you know, everything after Illmatic it could have been hit or miss. You know, when he did the whole Esco, Nas Escobar, and he got no shirt with the leather jacket. It was like, okay, nigga, stop. Then he had to humble himself, you know, after the whole Uchiwali era and shit, and come back after leaving Columbia and doing the Stillmatic album.
Mm-hmm. I like Stillmatic though.
I think everything from the Stillmatic album up to now, I think Nas is kind of mellowed out, and he said, you know what? I'm just about to be about this rap shit, and I'm gonna keep it pumping. And Nas is the King's Disease joint was amazing. I know it won a Grammy, and a lot of people. I don't care about the Grammys. Fuck Grammys. They don't matter to me. But King's Disease was a dope album. It hit. It made sense. I'm 44. Nas is like 47, 48. It just made sense. We came in the same era. So those are my 5. I love Black Thought. I love Fonte. I love Redman.
Yeah.
I love Face. I love Luda. I think they're all. I love 3000. I think they're all impactful in the game. But you narrowed it down to 5. So those are the 5 I have to give you. Rakim. Who else did I say? Who's my 4? Ice Cube, Biggie, Jigga, Nas. I mean, Kendrick Lamar. I love that dude. There's so many MCs that are.
It's so many great MCs. Yeah.
Oh my God.
So we got. It's you know, tens. I won't say hundreds, but it's tens of honorable mentions for sure. All right. So Biggie and Jay-Z for sure. Are in the top 5 in no particular order. I guess I would do, you know, Jay-Z's my number 1. I already said that. Yep. And it's like, I'm trying to think about what order it is in now, but it's definitely Biggie, Jay-Z, not in that particular order. I'm reminded of Jay-Z and Where I'm From. He's like, I'm from where, pull your card and argue all day about who's the best MCs, Biggie, Jay-Z, and Nas. Where drug czars evolve and thugs are at odds and at each other's throats for the love of foreign cars. But that's why Jay-Z's number 1. But it also, I always think Biggie, Jay-Z, and Nas. But for me personally, Nas drops out of the top 5.
I know you don't fuck with Nas.
Right. And I don't like, and for me, like, I feel like he's a genius. Don't get me wrong. Like, I feel like he's an absolute genius, but like the genius is like almost in the way of the cultural influence, right? Like we talked about like longevity and cultural influence. I don't feel like he like captures the country's imagination and can run with it in the same way that Biggie and Jay-Z have. I think the other person who's done that, kind of a blip, but also a great storyteller, is Pac, right? And so like if Cube is your West Coast influence, right, where it's like this is relevant for the time, it's good storytelling, then Pac is mine, right? Pac is the guy for me who was like, oh wow, there's a world out there. To live and die in LA, it's the place to be. And like just the idea of like, he was the guy where hip hop was headed towards pop music, where he was like, nah, like this has to be real. Like you can't be talking about getting shot if you didn't get shot, right? And so we see how after he got shot and murdered, how the game has just been like, oh, it's completely corporate now, in a lot of ways. And he was, in my mind, like the barrier between hip hop being corporatized and it being about real storytelling. And he opened up the door for other rappers who had like this different geographic affiliation, which one of them makes my list, and that is Marshall Mathers, also known as Eminem.
Eminem's in your top 5?
Eminem is in my top 5. Eminem, to me,
wow.
Who can, and I'm not even a huge fan of like all his albums. Like I don't even know that I bought. Right, I don't even know that I bought his last album, but or downloaded his last album. But in terms of like lyrically, he's the only one where I've been like him. Well, forgive me, him and Tariq Black Thought are the only two where I was like, this is possibly unmatched by another human being, right? So I think those are the two where it's like this is unmatched. But Tariq is the Roots. So if we had a separate category for like top 5 groups,
oh my God,
they'd be at the top of the group. Right.
Wu-Tang is one.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's true. Right? We could argue that maybe that's the next episode. But for now, like Eminem is that dude. And then I know people gonna hate on me so bad. So bad. Not again, this is not in order. I'm just naming top 5. And I'm prepared for the hate. You can bring it. I got convinced of this by some other people. And I'm sticking to it. Who makes my top 5, if we include like longevity and cultural influence, is Drake. I knew you were gonna do that, but this is Salim has literally died on episode 2 of Saliggy The Doc, when the doc reveals that Drake is in his top 5. You cannot argue with the numbers, right? Like that's probably one of top selling. Him and Eminem are 1 and 2 in terms of top selling. I know pop appeal isn't what we're talking about. Lyrically, he's solid. He has changed the game completely. He has essentially created hip hop into a new genre of music.
It's rap pop. He's rap pop.
And whether you want that or not, it is. And he's responsible for it. So to say that, and like, all this is to say, the dude is super talented. Like, let's not front like the dude is not super talented, right?
Absolutely.
So you add the talent, add the longevity, the sales, the influence on the game. You think about a guy like, Rick Ross. Rick Ross, Young Money, Cash Money, they wouldn't be the same without Drake. Like like DJ Khaled, Drake makes him every summer with a hot single. Like he's fathered the game for the last 5 to 10 years in some
I don't say he fathered anything. He's a terrible father. He let that son ride. All right, look. Let me say something about 3 of the people you picked out.
Yeah, go ahead, please. Yeah,
it's interesting. Like, so I don't disrespect Pac's influence in rap culture, in the game, at all. And I think for real, I'm not a Pac guy, but Pac got some bangers that I still fuck with today. Like Machiavelli, for real, like To Live and Die in LA is one of my favorites. It's one of my favorite.
That whole album is sick, yeah.
It's a dope album. And then even the album, the one with Tears and Temptation. I can't think of the name of the album right now.
Me Against the World.
Me Against the World. Me Against the World. He's the track he did called Old School on there. I thought it was dope. My biggest problem with Pac was, it's like, nigga, where are you from and who you rep? Like, are you from Oakland? Are you from
He talks about it though. Yeah.
Are you from New York? You schizophrenic. Are you happy about Brenda? Or are you hitting them up, nigga? Like, who are you?
That's what I love about him.
That was the
don't put me in a box.
The nigga was crazy. The nigga was wild.
Oh, he might have had some mental health issues, but most most of us do. Right? Most black, right?
All MCs do too.
Right. Exactly. You got to be a little crazy to be like, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna recite some poems over a beat and make $1 million, right? Who does that? Like.
Okay, so that's my thing on Pac.
Okay. Right. But that's okay. Those reasons you mentioned are exactly why he's on my list. That's why I love him.
The 2 that I'm gonna have like nightmares about that are Eminem and Drake. and my thing about Eminem is this: Eminem lyrically is a fucking monster. When he is challenged on some shit, like when they said
he needs it, right? Yeah, he's a battle rapper.
Like, yeah. Oh, Eminem killed Jigga on his shit. Like, oh my God, like. And everybody was like, yo, is Eminem going to graduate towards this? Because all Eminem would rap about would be Munchausen syndrome, Kim, drugs.
That was his life. He's rapping about his life.
That ain't me. I'm not a white dude from 8 Mile that got black friends. That ain't me.
I understand that.
I remember one white kid at University of Maryland, I was working there, had told me, this is like 2005, he said Eminem's the greatest rapper of all time. I said, get the fuck out of my area. Go study. Like, shut the fuck up. You're a white boy from Florida. You do high jump. I'm glad you can high jump, but shut the fuck up about music. Go.
Right.
Go.
Don't tell me about him.
Don't
Right.
tell me about it. I know he's your superhero in rap. Just shut the fuck up. So
right.
I think Eminem. What I like about Eminem is when he's challenged to get on a track with other superior MCs, he shines. But Eminem on an album, I bought three or four of his first albums, and I was like, yo, I'm good on this cat. I'm good on this cat because none of his shit on the albums moved me. I'm good. I think the only one I really liked might have been the Marshall Mathers LP. I think that's the only one that I like, but the other ones like Encore and Slim Shady.
I like several of his albums. I like Slim Shady. I like Marshall Mathers. I like Encore. Yeah,
I'm good. I'm good on Eminem. So that was a shocker. But I think lyrically, he is an amazing MC. But I don't even know what his longevity is or whatever. I don't know. I don't know.
Dude, it's been decades. He's still he's literally the greatest selling hip hop artist of all time. So that speaks to, yes, literally. Yeah. Literally, he has sold 152 million units.
Well, look, I don't want to make it a race thing because
I'm sorry, that's Drake, 227 million units. So you're right. There is race in this, right? Like there's, I study race. Race is in everything.
White is right. So Eminem is going to sell.
It gives him an advantage. He's going to sell more records. So you're right. That skews the numbers on sales. But he has been active producing music in the industry since he was 20 years old, 1992, even before that. Yeah.
Shade 4-5. Yeah, he's done, and Dre is the reason for that. Let's give Dre his props. He ain't no MC.
Shout out to Dre. For half the industry, basically.
Yeah, Dre's a visionary in this rap game. He ain't no good rapper.
Absolutely.
He need niggas to ghostwrite for him, but he's solid. But okay, the last one, Drake. Okay, here's my thing with that motherfucker. the shit with Drake that pisses me off is I know Drake can kill.
Right. He chooses not to.
Do right and kill everything. I know it can do it.
Right.
He just chooses not to. He wants to be the key sweat of this thing. I don't want to hear no nigga on no answer machine doing that Marvin's Room shit. He pissed me off with that Take Care album, I promise, man.
I don't like that album.
No, it wasn't.
I said I don't like it. I thought you
said it was a good album.
Yeah, I don't like that album.
He got Lord Knows on there with Rick Ross, where he actually raps and kills on that shit. I love that track. I hate that album.
I'm not a big fan of that album either.
So when Drake first came out with the So Far Gone and the EP and then his first album, Thank Me Later, I thought that was the beginnings of that's that next dude.
Yeah,
then
greatness.
Sing-songy and shit. And nigga got emotional in his feelings. He's LL on steroids. He be rapping to the chicks and shit.
Don't hate on him for appealing to a female audience, number one. Number two, in the midst of all that appealing to a female audience, he murdered Meek Mill. Destroyed. Meek Mill's not a great rapper, but Meek Mill is known as a real in hip hop, right? And with Back to Back, for example, not just I don't know how to better say it, but Back to Back is the thing I think that sold me on Drake, where I started to pay attention more after I had kind of been yeah. But when he came out with Back to Back, I was like, oh my goodness. Yeah, it's Back to Back. So who didn't get the message? Yeah, I'm on the cover of Lethal Weapon back to back like Jordan 96, 97. Whoa, very important, very pretentious. When I look back, I might be mad that I gave you this attention. And then when he went for him and Nikki, it was like, shout out to the women, boss women, wife and niggas. Like, I was like, oh my goodness. Like, this is, yeah. Like, think about it. Like, since the digital age, like, since you had to, like, or even before, because you used to have to buy CDs and records, right?
Right.
When have you put on a diss track? You could argue like Ether.
No
Right? You could
Vaseline.
argue no Vaseline. You could argue that. But in the modern era, if you will,
Okay.
no one else has like murdered an MC over a track like Drake has.
You know what my issue with this nigga is?
You're like, I'm not gonna argue that point. Go ahead.
I know he could do so much more as a rapper,
Right.
From like
You
the
just don't.
classical
Yeah, I understand.
rapper perspective. The Scorpion album, he was getting back to that joint. Like I was like, okay.
He had some. Yeah.
I'm always like, I'm tricked into listening to Drake because of his relevance. I have to, just to stay current. I'm 44.
Right. Exactly.
There's gonna be a point where I can't be the 50-year-old nigga listening to rap no more. So Drake is my inlet to staying relevant in this shit. And ooh, come on, cuz like.
But see what that says about him. See what that, and then we can't argue Drake the rest of the day. But the fact that for us 45-year-old somethings, right, and for my 26-year-old daughter, right, and for my 12-year-old nephew, I'm just making these people up, right? But it's still relevant. Like everyone's listening to that. Like he can capture every one of those demographics in one way or another. And I could play back to back, and then on the next song I could play Coming Home, and it'd be like something completely different. Just hold on, I'm coming home. That's my joint. But man, like just respect. I'll leave it there. Like the thing that frustrates you about him, I respect about him.
Okay. Yeah, and you are you're more accepting of a lot of things than I am. So I can understand. I'm mad is he your one? Like Drake is your number one?
No. That's what Jay-Z's my number one.
Well, okay, Jay-Z's your one, but
in my heart, right, I'm still a East Coast. I'm from New Jersey, but New York boom bap hip hop guy. Like that's in my heart. But my brain is like Drake is nice.
And before we end this, I'm speaking of boom bap. I don't want us to not mention greats like KRS-One. MC Light. Because I know we talked about other MCs before. KRS-One.
MC Shan. Take it back to the beginning.
Shan cool.
Cool D. Like, let's take what? Curtis Blow. I'm serious. Let's take it back to the beginning, man. Like, so this is how we can end. Like a shout out to the legends. You know what I'm saying? Like, people will be like, Curtis Blow is a little bit cartoonish right now, but when he came out, it was like, dang, like he was the man. Like on some other stuff.
The world. Like, it's all good.
Yes. Yeah. Grandmaster Flash, Cool Herc. Let's shout out to the originators. And we love you. We love you, originators. We love you, hip hop. We love you, MCs. Thank you for representing us, hip hop. We love you.
Indeed. And that's what we got to do, groups, because there's some MCs and groups that we need to bring up. So for sure.
Yeah.
And last night's verses, I don't know if you saw that with Ghostface.
I have to catch up on it. Yeah.
Hey, watch that shit, because you're going to ask a lot of questions like, what the fuck was Raekwon wearing? And where in the hell did Ghost get that ostrich mink? Those are the two. Immediately. But that was cool. It took me back. Like it was really a concert. It wasn't a versus. It wasn't a versus. Raekwon was just drunk, and Ghost was just Ghost. But
right.
I'll
check it out. We'll talk about that next time. We got to talk about best hip hop groups next time. So much more to talk about. So much more life. Drake, we love you, everybody. Saliggy and the Doc. Saliggy does not love everybody. I love you, everybody. Saliggy and the Doc, episode 2, putting it in the can. Like it, share it, comment below. Let us know who your top 5 is. And for sure, subscribe to this YouTube channel, y'all, because we need to monetize this, number 1. But number 2, you got to know when the new stuff drops. So, peace.